members who help support the show. Get your super chats ready. Jake will be here in just a moment. If you love the New York Jets, this is the place to be. And now, the Jake Asman Show.
Today, we're breaking down the state of the New York Jets following the first ever draft in the Aaron Glenn, Darren Muji era. Jets reporter Rich Cimini is my guest. It's the Jake Asman Show. Let's hit it and get it started.
Man, our Jets are primed to win another offseason, baby.
I got just the guy to get us going tonight.
Each and every day. Will the playoff drought finally end? Kings of the offseason, baby. This is what we do. At least we have Garrett Wilson. We have Breece Hall. Please subscribe and hit the like button below. Super chat, baby. Cut the line. We have Sauce Gardner. We have Quentin Williams. Prepare to be underdogs. Now it's time to talk all things New York Jets. It's the Jake Asman Show.
Here we go, here on a Wednesday. It is Wednesday, April 30th. The New York Jets have wrapped up the 2025 NFL Draft. A 7-member draft class is official, and let's talk about that and much more with today's guest. He is a good friend of the show. He's covered the Jets forever, basically, my entire life following the team for, of course, the Daily News and then ESPN and ESPN.com. The great Rich Cimini joins us right now. Rich, always appreciate your time. Thanks so much for hopping on.
And don't forget Newsday, too. That's where I first started covering the Jets at Newsday. So, but always great to be with you, Jake. Love talking Jets, and especially when you're the host. So let's do it.
I appreciate it. You know, for you, Rich, how many years will this now be on the beat? How many drafts in particular have you now covered then?
Wow, drafts. I think the first full-time draft was like when I was the full-time writer for Newsday was 1989, and they drafted Jeff Lageman that year. So, that was my indoctrination into Jet draftdom, was a crowd, booing Jeff Lageman, who actually has turned out to be a really good friend of mine. And of course, he lives down in Jacksonville. He does color for the Jaguars. And so, yeah, that was my indoctrination into the Jet world of drafting.
That's incredible. So obviously the draft has changed a tremendous amount since you started covering it. Take us inside what it was like to be at the Jet facility. I know you were there for all 3 of the days. What was it like? Anything different that you noticed going from the previous regime to now this Aaron Glenn and Darren Muji regime?
Yeah, not really. I mean, I think most fans would probably find it boring what we do. I mean, we're essentially doing what every fan is doing. We have of course, our TV is really nice. They have a massive screen TV there in the facility, right there in the press room. So we watch it on TV like the fans. And as soon as a pick is made, we are, at least I am required to, write something immediately, have it posted within a couple of minutes about who they drafted and whether it was a good pick. We call it pro and con. And then, go into a little more further analysis. And then we have a Zoom call right away. I mean, they'll bring the pick up, whoever it is, on a Zoom call, and we interview them. So things, once they make the pick, things happen, pretty quickly. And then, of course, when they drafted Mason Taylor on Friday night, that was an interesting story. And they were good enough to put Jason Taylor on a Zoom call for us. So that was pretty cool. And of course, that brought back some memories for me. So now I'm covering their sons, which shows you how long I've been doing this. I covered Jason Taylor when he was with the Jets in 2010. So it's a lot of waiting around and stuff like that. But, when they make the picks, things start moving pretty quickly.
You brought up Mason Taylor. I mean, Jason Taylor, a lot of people forget that he was on that 2010 Jets team, and he played well. LaDainian Tomlinson played well. Like, there were a lot of veteran moves that Tannenbaum made for the roster with Rex that year, the trading for Santonio Holmes. And that was the last time, every Jet fan knows this, the Jets were any good in the playoffs, second year in a row in the championship game. So maybe the key is they need a Taylor on the roster with that bloodline to actually break this playoff drought, Rich.
It's funny, Jake. We're interviewing Jason. We're halfway through this interview, and then Mark Cannizzaro of the New York Post goes, Jason was talking about that 2010 team, noting that it was the only time in his career that he got that far in the playoffs. And so, Mark Cannizzaro points out, Jason, that's the last playoff game the Jets have played. And he seemed a little taken aback by that, Jason. He's like, really? I didn't know that. And then he paused for a moment and he's like, well, okay, well, let's change that. So it's just kind of a weird dynamic. I think all your Jet fans know just how much hatred there was for Jason Taylor before he came to the Jets. I mean, he was despised at MetLife Stadium or Giant Stadium or wherever. And now he will be among them cheering for his son and for his son's new team.
If you're tuning in, I just realized I had an audio setting a little off, so hopefully my voice sounds a little better. Appreciate everyone in the chat for pointing that out. Rich, I want to go back to, before we get to some of the other picks, and we just talked about Taylor there, I want to go back to the decision at 7, because it felt like leading up to the draft, it started to feel like maybe they could be a defensive player. Maybe it could be an offensive tackle, but not Membu. But right before all that kind of started, within the last week, the two most popular players that were mocked to the Jets were Armand Membu and Tyler Warren. A couple days now removed. When you think back to that decision at 7, do you think Membu was their guy the whole time, or do you think there was some real truth to some of the rumors we were hearing about a different tackle or maybe even a different player in that spot?
No, I think Membu was their guy. I mean, I was pretty confident that they were going to draft an offensive lineman. Now, I was admittedly wrong. I was on the Kelvin Banks Jr. Bandwagon there. I thought maybe he had the edge over Membu just because of his ability to play left tackle. There's value in that, we all know. So I thought Banks would be the choice at 7. I wasn't buying all this late talk about a defensive player like Jalen Walker became all of a sudden on the last day a popular choice. So I'm always a little, suspect, when I hear stuff like that. So I was told they weren't going defense. I felt pretty confident that it was going to be an offensive player. I think they did like Tyler Warren a lot. Obviously, not more than Membu. Membu, I believe they love just because of his ability to play right tackle. He has done that. That is not a projection. With Kelvin Banks Jr., it would have been a projection. Although Banks is highly regarded, he went to 2 picks later, I think, or 2 or 3 picks later. So he's a highly regarded tackle. This is one of those tackle classes where I think if you polled all 32 teams, you might have an even split. Some teams liked Will Campbell, some teams like Membu, and some teams liked, Kelvin Banks Jr. So it was like your flavor of the month, whatever your favorite flavor was. The Jets like Membu. I thought it was a good value. It obviously fills a need. He will be a day one starter for them. So I thought it was the right pick for the Jets. And now they just got to get him ready to play.
When you look at this offensive line, is it fair to say, at least from a talent perspective, it is the most talented O-line they've had since probably that 2009, 2010 team we were just discussing?
Well, yeah, in terms of draft pedigree, without a doubt. I mean, you're talking about 3 former first-rounders there with Olu, AVT, and Armand Membu. In fact, our great stats people at ESPN did some research for me, and I said, when's the last time a team drafted an offensive lineman in the first round 4 times out of 6 drafts? And you have to go all the way back to the turn of the century, 25 years ago, the Detroit Lions and the Seattle Seahawks from 96 to 01. Both those teams drafted 4 offensive linemen in the first round within a 6-year span. So it is really unusual what the Jets have done these last 6 years. Now, of course, one of them is gone, Mekhi Becton. They still have 3 guys left. I think on paper it has a chance to be a really good offensive line, but it's going to take a while. I mean, Membu is young. He's only 21. He's still growing. He's a little raw in his technique. So, they're not going to have an all-pro as soon as they put him in there. Olu Fashanu is still growing. He only started 7 games last year, so he is still a developing player. So it'll be interesting if these guys max out their potential, then you're talking about, one of the better offensive lines in the league.
How important is the coaching there? Because I'd argue that last year, this offensive line group underachieved for the talent they had, and a lot of it, I'm sure, is being put on Hackett and Keith Carter and the old offensive coaching staff. Brand new offensive staff here, a lot of inexperience on that side of the ball. In your opinion, Rich, how important is the coaching on that side of the ball for that group?
I'm glad you brought that up. It's so important. I mean, offensive line coaching is probably the one position group where I think coaching really does have an impact. I mean, we've already referenced 2010. I mean, Bill Callahan, who now is with Tennessee with his son, an awesome offensive line coach. I mean, you ask any player that played for Bill Callahan, he'll tell you that he made them a better player. And I think under Keith Carter, the Jets were horribly coached, to be blunt. I mean, and that's players telling me that as well. That's not just me and my, armchair observations. Players felt that they weren't coached well. And it was, the trickle down effect was a guy like Breece Hall, who, granted, he didn't have a great year. He had some bad games last year, but I think a lot of that was a product of an offensive line that couldn't get out of its own way. I mean, how many times did you see free runners on third down, unblocked guys hitting the quarterback? I think Rodgers was very frustrated. A group that did not play up to its potential, not even close. And if they get even halfway decent coaching this year, they'll be better for it.
Talking about now day 2, we mentioned Mason Taylor and his dad, but do you believe he's a starter right away, Rich? Do you think he's going to come in and be that starting tight end for this offense?
With tight end, it's a little different. I mean, is he going to be what if they're in 21 personnel on the first play of the first game on opening day, is he going to be the starting tight end? I mean, I don't know if that will be the case, but he's going to play a lot. Jeremy Ruckert, I suspect, is probably the top of the depth chart right now, but Mason Taylor is going to play a lot. The reason they picked him, and they could have taken Elijah Arroyo too from Miami, who quite frankly is a better pass receiver than Mason Taylor, but they think Taylor will be more of a wide tight end, more of a traditional inline tight end, although he did line up a lot in the slot at LSU, but he's more of an all-around player. He can block. I think if we've learned anything about Aaron Glenn so far as a coach, it's that he, being physical and tough are two traits that he wants in his players. I think they'll get that from Mason Taylor, whereas Elijah Arroyo is more of almost like a wide receiver tight end hybrid. So he'll be a good blocker for them in time. Is he going to be a big play tight end? I don't know. I mean, if you look last year at LSU, I think 80 yards and chain was his biggest game as a wide receiver. So he was not a big play tight end on the college level. So I think he'd be stretching it to say that he will become that on the NFL level. However, he is very sure-handed. He's a hard worker. I thought it was good value. It was obviously a need. So I like the pick.
And then you get to the 3rd round pick. And at first, when I heard that the Jets were taking a corner, I was like, huh, what? But then you look at the film on him and the attributes and how awesome he is already in man coverage and how rare that is for a college prospect to have that many reps in man. I'm like, oh, Aaron Glenn found his ideal corner, and the value was probably too good for them to pass up. But I'm curious, Rich, have you heard anything else on the decision there to go with A.Z. Thomas out of Florida State? Because my theory is maybe there was a player they were eyeing that got picked right in front of them, and rather than reach for another position of need, they stuck to their board and got really good value in A.Z. Thomas.
Well, Thomas, I talked to some scouts, and they felt that he probably would have been a 2nd-round pick if he had run a little better. I mean, he didn't run at the combine. He ran at his pro day. He ran a 4.58, and unfortunately, that is just not, that often doesn't translate to being a starting quarterback in the NFL. There are exceptions. His tape is really good. I've talked to scouts who said, we thought this guy might have even stuck it to the bottom of the 1st round had he run a really good time. And, he's 6'2", he's physical, he can play press man 30% of the time. He is like the ideal scheme fit for what Aaron Glenn wants to do on defense. It's just that, does he have the catch-up speed? 4.58 is not great for a corner. I was a little surprised by the pick. I think this was an Aaron Glenn pick. I think it was a value pick. They felt the value was too good to pass up. My only question is, how does he get to the field?
Right.
You got Sauce Gardner, you got Brandon Stevens, you got Michael Carter in the slot, and AZ is not a slot corner. He did not play that at Florida State. So he'll be your 4th corner. He'll be your new Brandon Eccles, which gives you really good depth for the first year. But when you draft a guy in the third round, you kind of want him to be a starter someday. So how is he going to be a starter? Unless Brandon Stevens is bad, and I do have some doubts about Brandon Stevens. I thought the Jets overpaid for him in free agency, $20 million guaranteed for a guy who struggled last year. I thought was a bit much. But if he's a good player for the Jets, then Thomas might not get to the starting lineup. So it'll be really interesting. I know some fans are saying, well, they're going to move Stevens to safety. They're not moving Stevens to safety. They're not paying $20 million for a guy to become their safety. So they have really good depth at corner right now. And that's a good thing. You need it in the NFL.
Where I struggle with this draft class, Rich, and you tell me if this is a fair criticism, it's one of the most talented defensive tackle drafts we've ever seen, and they didn't take their chance, take their shot on day 3, and even earlier if they wanted to do it, let's say with that Thomas pick instead. They didn't take any defensive tackle. I want to ask you about some of the day 3 picks, but to me, the lack of any defensive tackle that they took their chance on in this draft, that's my biggest criticism of this draft class.
Yeah, me too. There were 30 defensive tackles drafted this year, so it was a really deep class. I thought the Jets would take one. Of course, they said they feel good what they have right now. Okay, you got Quinnen Williams. That's good. But then who's, Derek Nottie from Kansas City. You got Byron Coward from Chicago. You got the kid from Cincinnati, Tufele, Jay. Are these guys, none of them are really starting quality players to me. So I think you're going to see the committee approach. This is classic, to use a Bill Parcellsism. Those are all hold the fort guys. They're just holding the fort for the next guy to come along. Maybe Leonard Taylor III, is this his shot? He played a little bit last year. I think he's got some talent. He'll get a shot to step in there and, maybe play a bigger role. So I think it's going to be a rotation with a lot of guys who probably should only be playing 15 to 20 snaps a game. So it's not an ideal situation. And I thought they should have drafted a defensive tackle.
The pick that caused the most outrage, at least on my show from callers and comments, is the pick on day 3, pick 110, wide receiver Arian Smith out of Georgia. Just, by the way, it just shows you how passionate Jet fans still are that a day 3 wide receiver pick is causing this much uproar. But, Rich, what was your reaction to this pick, and what have you heard about the type of player the Jets are getting here in Arian Smith?
Well, I knew they had him in for a 30 visit, so I knew that there was, in some realm he was on their radar. I didn't think it would be as early as the 4th round. Now, our guys at ESPN, Scouts Inc., they do a great job with the player evaluations. They had him as like a 7th round talent, and I think if you check, most of the other draft experts like Dane Brugler and Kuiper, they all had him very, very low. So that was a reach for me. He is fast. I mean, he was like the Georgia state champion in high school in the 200 meters. So the guy can fly. He ran a 4.36, 4.37 at the combine. He's had a long injury history, knee surgery, wrist surgery, leg surgery for a broken leg. So he's had that as well. The one thing I would say about him, other than the speed, is he is supposedly a really hard worker. And so they're going to get a guy who I think recognizes his deficiency and will work really hard to improve that. So I see a gadget. I see a faster Malachi Corley. I see a gadget guy, a guy that can get the ball on screens. A large percentage of his production at Georgia last year came on screen passes, jet sweeps. Get the ball in the hands of a guy who runs sub 4.4. Something can happen. So and plus he's really good on special teams, Jake. He can be a gunner for them. And so that's carries some value as well. I do think it was a reach in the 4th round. I would have taken Jalen Knoll in the 3rd round, the Iowa State receiver. He was there when they took Thomas. I thought he would have been a really, really good, fast, dangerous slot receiver for the Jets, but they go with Arian Smith. And so I can't tell you how many people texted me or how many Jet fans I ran into. And the first thing they said about him was, the guy in the 4th round can't catch. So I think you're selling him a little bit short. He did have 800 something yards receiving in the SEC, which is nothing to sneeze at. but obviously he's got a deficiency that he has to work on.
Oh, he's in a receiver room with Alan Lazard, so he'll fit right in. And then you have Corley, who dropped the ball in the game against the Texans. So it's very fitting for what that room looks like outside of Garrett Wilson right now.
Yeah, Alan Lazard had a lot of drops last year. I think he had one of the league leaders in terms of drop percentage. So yeah, that's a concern. I mean, you got Garrett, much like defensive line, you got one really good player. You got Garrett Wilson there. You got Quinnen Williams at defensive tackle. But where's the supporting cast coming from? I mean, is it Reynolds? Is it Tyler Johnson? Is it Lazard, Arian Smith, Malachi Corley? I think could get lost in the shuffle unless he makes a dramatic improvement in year 2. Clearly, the previous coaching staff did not embrace him, so maybe he learned a lesson from that. So other than Garrett Wilson and Arian Smith, I don't think there are any roster locks at wide receiver. I mean, they could cut or trade or do none of those guys are locks. Xavier Gibson. So it'll be a very competitive situation in training camp.
Do you see them maybe adding a veteran wide receiver? Like Amari Cooper is still out there. Keenan Allen is still out there. I really wanted Tyler Lockett. He only signs for $3 or $4 million to Tennessee. I thought that would have been a perfect veteran addition to that room. I just feel like you're asking a lot of Garrett Wilson, and then, like, God forbid, he suffers an injury. You're trying to unlock Justin Fields. Those are the words of the head coach, right? Glenn says that he could break out. I mean, the reason why Darnold and Baker Mayfield were able to do it, they were in great situations weapon-wise. So I know the Jets have a good O-line and should have a good running game, but I just feel like they are a receiver short still after this draft.
Yeah, no question about it. Yes, they certainly are. They waited to the 4th round to address it, and it's an interesting mix of players. To answer your question, no, I don't think they're going to go out and make a significant investment in an Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper can't run anymore. I mean, the Bills didn't even play him toward the end of the year last year. I think they realized it themselves after picking him up in a trade. So unless a really good receiver shakes free, and like, who's getting rid of a really good receiver? I think this is what they have. You have a bunch of guys who are like the same kind of guy, Lazard and Reynolds, bigger, physical type players, good blockers, grinded out, grimy type of players. Tyler Johnson, I mean, he had a good game against Detroit. Was it last year or the year before? So Aaron Glenn saw that, up close and personal. And so always follow the money. So that's where you know what a team feels about a player. We know what they feel about Alan Lazard. They cut his salary, back pretty much down to nothing. And they gave Reynolds a couple of million, guaranteed. Tyler Johnson got less than $1 million. So the Jets are telling you what that receiving core is. Any one of those players could be starting, or any one of those players could be cut. It depends how it goes in training camp.
We have a question for Rich. Super chat it in, and we'll cut the line, and we will read it when we get to the Q&A at the end of this conversation. While we're talking about wide receivers, and we mentioned Garrett Wilson, any updates in regards to potential contract talks with Garrett and the Jets, and then Sauce Gardner and the Jets as well?
Well, I think the positive there is that Garrett is participating in the offseason program. Sauce Gardner's been there as well. I know Quincy Williams has been there. He's a guy who's, in line for an extension. I need to check in on the Garrett situation. Haven't done that before the draft. Darren Muji said, that's more of a post-draft thing. So I think, now is the time to switch the focus to those guys. And, I could see that going right up until the start of the season. I think the Jets clearly, they want to re-up with those guys, especially Gardner and Wilson. I think Gardner is probably a little ahead in terms, because I think the market's a little more clearly defined at corner, and receiver will be an interesting way to go. I don't know what Garrett is asking for. He's probably going to fall in somewhere in the $25 to $30 million category. Sauce, I believe, is trying to exceed what Stingley got from Houston, which was $30 a year. I think Sauce is probably looking at 31 just to try to top him. He certainly has a good case, for that. Didn't have the greatest year last year, but was outstanding in his first 2 years. So those are situations that I think we'll be talking and writing about as we go into training camp, as we go through the summer. Those are going to be front burner issues for the Jets.
Do you believe Garrett's contract is more difficult than Sauce's contract?
Yeah, just because of the receiver market. And I think, Garrett is a really good player, but if you line up his, he's not Jamar Chase and he's not A.J. Brown in terms of actual production and numbers. Now, he could argue that, look, I've had 7 different quarterbacks since I've been in the league, and yet I still had 1,000 yards in each of the first 3 years, which is like, if I were his agent, I would certainly be arguing that. That is a legitimate argument. So he is coming off an 1,100-yard year. It was his best year statistically. So he can make a strong case. I do think he's doing the right thing by being in the voluntary workouts. He's showing a desire to be part of this. I know he's excited about Justin Fields. I know even before this voluntary stuff, he's had multiple conversations with Aaron Glenn. And this is even before the voluntary practices started. Glenn reached out to him immediately and said, "We want you part of this. We value you." And I know Garrett, Garrett was in a bad place coming off of last year. I mean, I think we've probably talked about this in past podcasts. He and Aaron Rodgers did not get along. And I think it was a really frustrating year because of the losing and because of that relationship. But, Justin Fields has a great relationship with Garrett going back to Columbus, Ohio. And so I think Garrett's in a really good place now. And, for the Jets' sake, they should do this contract because he's the kind of player you want to build around.
Totally agree. As far as Fields goes, what are the expectations internally for him? We mentioned it before, how, Glenn is talking about how they're going to let him play quarterback and they think he could break out. Clearly, they're going to try and run the football and be a ground and pound style offense. But from what you've heard about Fields and just your thoughts on that signing and his impact in year one, what is he going to have to do to basically win over the Jets regime that he can maybe be their guy beyond just this one season as the starter?
Yeah, I mean, just produce, just go out there and be the quarterback and be the leader and get your team in the end zone. That's Justin Fields, 26 years old. I do believe there's some upside there. 8-4 in his last 12 starts, and I think he was maybe 12-26 in his, the first part of his career, but 8-4 in his last 12 starts. Of course, last year with, Pittsburgh, 4 starts, played pretty well, played okay, then got benched. So the Jets believe there's a lot of untapped potential there. I think if you look at it from strictly an analytics standpoint or a data-driven standpoint, quarterbacks who start their careers, very few guys are able to turn it around. We saw Darnold do it. We saw Baker Mayfield do it. Geno Smith did it. It took him a long time to do it. But so there are cases where quarterbacks can turn around their career. But if you look at, what Justin Fields has done, he'd be kind of an outlier to do that. And so, but the Jets are all in, Jake. They are behind him. They did not draft a quarterback.
Right.
I was a little surprised. I thought they probably should have taken a quarterback on day 3. You want to hedge your bet a little bit. You want to add to that pipeline. I'm a big believer in the Ron Wolf philosophy. You should add a quarterback every year if you can, because even if he doesn't play for you, there's value there. There could be a trade chip down the road. So I was a little surprised they didn't take a quarterback. They're just all in on Justin Fields. And if he doesn't work this year, if it doesn't work, they'll cut bait. And we'll be talking about the Jets as a team that's going to draft a quarterback next year.
Do you think the Jets were tempted at any point to maybe draft Shedeur Sanders as he was falling, or do you think he was never an option for them?
I don't think he was a strong consideration. I thought maybe in the 4th round, that, in my own personal opinion, that would have been a good place to go, because at that point it's like, what do you have to lose? At the 4th round, if it doesn't work out, you can just cut him. But no, I don't get the impression that the Jets were close to pulling the trigger on Shedeur Sanders. That would have run counter to everything Aaron Glenn is doing. The whole move in silence thing. I don't think they would have been moving in silence if they drafted Shedeur Sanders. Now, look, he may turn out to be a really good player, and then they'll look back and think what might have been. But no, I don't think the Jets were like, oh man, let's pull the trigger on this guy. I don't think it got to that point.
Do you believe maybe part of the reason they didn't draft a quarterback is because, well, they obviously know the medicals on Jordan Travis and his health, and maybe they're like, hey, this guy is better than any of the quarterbacks we could add on day 3. Let's just see what we have with a guy going into his second year.
Yeah, I mean, I think they want to give him a chance. He obviously didn't even practice last year because of that injury, that horrific injury from Florida State. So,
You spoke with his agent, right? That was your report a couple months back. Yep.
Yeah, so his agent was obviously not happy about the way the Jets handled Jordan's rehab last year. He felt that they had rushed him, which led to a setback. Now, I don't think he would have been on the field under any circumstance last year. Even if there had been an injury to Rodgers and Tyrod Taylor, they probably would have gone out and got a veteran or something like that, some sort of Trevor Siemian type guy. So Jordan Travis was never going to see the field last year. However, he might have been able to practice later in the year had he been healthy, but he suffered a setback, and I don't think I know he didn't have to go for more surgery or anything like that, but it was significant enough that they had to shut him down. Those were the words of the agent. They had to shut him down. And so the team has been pretty tight-lipped about where he is medically right now. But I think also that, and also just not seeing the value in some of these other quarterbacks. I think if they thought there was value in it, now I don't agree with them, but had they thought that McCord or Will Howard was too good a value to the pass up, I think they would have, taken the plunge there. But evidently they didn't see the value in those quarterbacks.
Your thoughts on Darren Muji coming out after night 1 and emphatically shutting down the Breece Hall trade conversation, saying Breece is on the team. He has not had any conversations with any teams about Breece. Is that what you've heard as well, Rich? Because there was a lot of smoke, and Josina Anderson, of course, had the report the day of the draft that he was potentially available. What did you make of the Breece Hall conversation, the rumors that are out there?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if he emphatically shut it down. I asked him that question about Breece Hall, and he said, we have not had any conversations. And so I said, so he's going to be on the team. And he said he's on the team. Yes, there were rumors out there. I wrote something a few weeks ago, more or less jumping off the comment that Aaron Glenn made at the owners meeting, saying that we're going to use all 3 guys in the backfield, which is a new approach for them. So I was more or less speculating on the possibility, like, hey, if Ashton Genty's there at 7, could they possibly take Genty and look to move Breece Hall? That kind of took on a life of its own, which things often do on the internet nowadays and social media. And then Josina reported on the day of the draft that the Jets were, I guess, saying that Hall was available. Jake, they weren't going to trade him during this draft. This was a deep running back draft. I mean, there were so many running backs in this draft. So why would a team give up a 4th-round pick for a Breece Hall, who's only got a year left on his contract, where they could use a 4th-round pick on a running back who can give you 4 years of, cost-effective production under your salary cap? So the chances of trading Hall were really low, I think. And so they did the right thing. He'll play out his contract. Will he be on the Jets next year? I kind of doubt it, the way the running back market goes. But, he'll be highly motivated to have a good year. And so I think it's a win-win for the team and for Breece Hall.
I just feel like Breece has never been properly utilized to the best of his ability. Like, I look at his ability as a receiver and say, why can't he do what Christian McCaffrey has done with the San Francisco 49ers? I mean, coming off the ACL in 2023, he was 2nd in the NFL at his position behind McCaffrey in yards per scrimmage. So I just feel like if they want to be a run-first offense, he's a perfect fit for what they're trying to do with him being one of the featured elements of their offense.
Yeah, I think that year he led all running backs in receptions, that year coming off his ACL. That's his greatest. I mean, he's just a really good 2-way player, dual threat. Now, last year, we talked about the offensive line, but I study all these metrics. His yards over expected was really low last year. He had a couple of games, he had, I think, 6 dropped passes last year. He had a handful of fumbles. I recall a couple of really bad games, and I can't even remember who it was against. I know it was a home game. He seemed to be in a funk the entire game. I don't think he had his explosiveness last year for whatever reason. And it was not a good Brees Hall year. So I think there's definitely more there. His metrics have declined rushing wise from his rookie year all the way through last year. So I think there's so much more there for him to accomplish. And like I said, he knows very well that this is a contract year. And if he wants to get paid, he's going to have to go out there and have a monster year.
We're talking, of course, with the great Rich Cimini. If you have a question, write it in. A little Q&A here to wrap up our segment with Rich. Adam says, Rich Cimini, we're not worthy. Big love from the UK. You'll be out in the UK potentially this year, Rich. The Jets are going to be a home team for the first ever time. I've heard it's going to be Jacksonville, but I don't know if that has been confirmed just yet.
Yeah, I haven't heard who it's going to be against. You might be right. I think we'll find out May 14th. The schedule comes out, so we will know soon enough. And I always have a lot of fun when I go over to the UK. And last year, the stadium in Tottenham was incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a nice stadium. I mean, I've been to Wembley too, and Wembley's, I don't know, it's okay. I guess it's Wembley, so we have to say nice things about it. But Tottenham is, ultra modern. I was a little worried when it started raining. There was a light rain fall because we had an open press box and there was some mist falling on my laptop. So I got a little concerned there, but really cool stadium, rabid fan base. It was fun.
Yep, I was there as well. It was a blast. Doug writes in, Rich, in your years covering the Jets, do your beat writer colleagues from other teams ever rib you for covering a team that's so consistently bad?
It's funny. I got a text from a writer. I won't say who it was, but I'll just say he's from a team much like the Jets that has suffered through a long history of losing. And he texted me and he goes, I was talking to an NFL source today and he was poking me about how I've been covering a losing team for such a long time. And he said, the source told me the only guy who's had it worse than you is Cimini. I didn't, of course, ask him who his source was. Obviously, someone who knows me. But it's there are a few teams that have gone through what the Jets are going through right now. But look, Detroit was one of those teams a couple of years ago, and now look at Detroit. So you can flip it very quickly, in the NFL if you have a good plan and good leadership and a good culture and a good quarterback helps. So maybe things can change for the Jets.
Bino asking about Malachi Corley says it's probably the most confusing thing ever. They trade up to draft Corley, and apparently we're in love with this guy and then barely use him. I mean, that to me, not even just with Corley, but there's so many examples of this with the previous regime, Rich, where it feels like front office brings in a talented player and then the coaching staff has no plan for said player. And at least I feel like we'll find out if Glenn knows what he's doing, but at least I feel like, hey, they take Arian Smith. Some people think maybe it's a reach, but maybe they have a legitimate plan for how they're going to use them to open things up in their offense on clearing routes or whatever the case may be. I hope there's a better cohesion from coaching staff to front office now with Aaron Glenn and his background in scouting before he became a coach.
Yeah, I think Malachi Corley might have been another Aaron Rodgers special. I think Aaron really liked him and just saw some ability with the yards after catch and came in last year, Corley, and just, with a sense of entitlement. I think, as they say, and as the coaches like to say, he needs to learn how to become a professional, So hopefully it was a humbling experience for Malachi Corley last year, but I would certainly take the Arian Smith drafting as a clear and loud message to you, Mr. Corley, that the scholarship is over. This regime has no loyalty to you. And, you better get your butt in gear. Otherwise, they could easily move on.
Leon wants to know, does it bode poorly for Corley since the Jets retained the same wide receivers coach?
That's an interesting question, Leon. Sean Jefferson is a really good coach. I think it was a smart move by Aaron Glenn to keep him. No, I think Jefferson is a hard, he's hard on his guys. So does it bode well? No, because I think Sean Jefferson is an open-minded guy. And I think if Corley comes in this year with a different attitude and, wants to prove that he can be that guy, then I think Sean Jefferson is going to be open-minded. Bill Parcells told me a long time ago, coaches are selfish. They play the best guys because they want to win. So that's some advice to heed. So no, I don't think it's a detriment to Corley that Sean Jefferson's the coach again.
Last chance to get your question in for Rich to answer. DNAT wants to know, have the Jets solved their rushing defense, or do you foresee more defensive line free agent signings?
No, I mean, I know some people respect, Foley Fatukasi is out there, and now, he does fit this scheme a little bit better than he did the Saleh scheme. But I think the Jets have made their bed there at defensive tackle. Unless a player unexpectedly becomes available. I mean, they signed 4 guys. I have my depth chart here somewhere with all my salaries. They didn't pay those guys, that none of them got at more than a couple of $1 million guaranteed. So that tells you, what the demand was for those players. It wasn't much. And so did they fix the run defense? I think scheme will have a lot to do with that. I think on the Robert Saleh, Jeff Ulbrich scheme, it was really predicated on selling out to rush the passer. It's the kind of scheme that is really good when you're playing with a lead. So with the 49ers, it worked great for Saleh because they were playing with the lead a lot. As we know with the Jets, they were often playing from behind, which kind of really almost, it was like taking the teeth out of that pass rush. And so this scheme will be more geared, bigger. I think you'll see bigger defensive linemen and more geared toward selling out to stop the run as opposed to rushing the passer.
Speaking of Jeff Ulbrich, Alan wants to know, is Ulbrich in hot water because of what his kid did with the Shedeur Sanders prank call?
No, I'm sure he's really embarrassed. I like Jeff a lot. He's a good guy. I'm sure he was mortified when he found out what his son did. That's inexcusable. I mean, we're not talking about a 13-year-old kid here. We're talking, I think he's 21, right? So he's technically an adult, college student. That was a really poor decision. He apologized on social media. The Falcons have already stated that there will be no penalties for Jeff Ulbrich other than just the, public humiliation.
Yeah, I mean, it's just crazy. That's a real thing. And I'm curious because Shedeur wasn't the only prospect that got pranked. So where did some of the other prank calls come from as well? How did those numbers get leaked as well?
Yeah, I think the NFL is going to try to plug those leaks.
This one is from J-Quest. Rich, do me a favor. When Smith drops the game-winning touchdown, please use the headline, "Don't throw to Stonehands. Been reading your work since I was a kid."
Well, they have a guy on the team named Stone now, so they could throw to Stone, Stone Smart, one of the great names. He's probably on the all-name team for this offseason. But, I mean, look, I think ESPN stats had Smith at 9 drops last year. I've seen places where it's 10 drops. Either way, it's too many. When we spoke to him on the Zoom call after he got drafted, he acknowledged it's an issue. The Jets, Muji, Glenn, they acknowledge it's an issue. It's a little bit of roll of the dice, but you can't teach 4.36 speed. And so they figured that there's something to work with there, and they're going to try to, correct the drops.
So I'm obviously rooting for Aaron Glenn. I like his temperament. I like a lot of the press conference stuff, but I don't love how everything is always compared to the Lions. I get it. That's where you come from, but you lose me a little bit when we're saying, well, Arian Smith, we could handle him. We can handle the drops because, I had, Jameson Williams in Detroit and he had a drop thing. It's like Jameson Williams was a top 15 player. He was a first round guy. Arian Smith was a guy that some people thought would go undrafted or in the 7th round. I don't know. Is it too much Lions with Glenn? Am I nitpicking, Rich? Is that fair?
Yeah, that one was out of left field for me. Jameson Williams was an elite prospect who only dropped because of his knee injury. I mean, it wasn't because of his drops in college. I mean, if he had a healthy knee, he would have been a much higher pick. So, that one was a bit of a reach for me, but he does compare. I mean, Brian Branch's name came up a couple of times. That's who Aaron Glenn knows. I get it. I think these are really only his first few press conferences with us. He had the introductory presser. He had the one at the combine. He had the one in Florida at the owners' meetings, and then he had the ones during the draft. So he's really only talked to us, 6 times. So he's learning as he goes through, and I think those references to Detroit and New Orleans will probably be fewer and fewer as we go along.
Jason says, "Greetings from Jerusalem." Which UDFA's?
Wow.
Yeah, we're an
You're
international
big. You're big all over the globe, Jake.
Which UDFA's have the best chance to make the team? Which vets are in danger of not making the team?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think Donovan Edwards from Michigan, the running back, I thought would be drafted.
I'm sure your son loved that pick too, by the way.
Yeah, he did. I watched a lot of Michigan football over the last few years, and I did think he'd have a better career. I mean, the way he came in as a freshman, granted he was playing second fiddle to Blake Corum, but they were a dynamic, duo, especially during the championship year a couple of years ago. And then for whatever reason, I don't know if he was injured, he just didn't have the same production last year. Obviously, supporting cast has a factor in that, but I think he's got a real shot. I mean, they have 3 good running backs, but he could be the 4th guy. Who else, like in terms of other undrafted players, that's the one that really sticks out to me. They signed a player from Germany who played 1 year at UCF, and they gave him over $200,000. The safety they start is a Dean Clark from Fresno State. They gave him $160,000. He was a really high score on the, the next gen does the athletic score, with all the different metrics combined, one of the higher safeties in terms of overall athletic score. A lot of people thought he would get drafted. Look, the Jets safety room is wide open right now. I mean, other than Cisco, they have Tony Adams, but I'm not ready to write Tony Adams down in ink yet as a starter. So they drafted Malachi Moore, who we haven't even mentioned yet. A player they obviously liked a lot. They traded
Another
up.
Brian Branch comparison from Glenn with that answer.
Yeah, actually, there is some. Of course, Branch went early in the 2nd round, but they did run the same 40 time. And Moore is a very heady, instinctual player, maybe lacking some size and some speed, but a smart physical player. In terms of veterans that might get cut, I don't know. Help me out here, Jake. I mean, I guess looking
Ruckert,
like
is he I mean,
yeah, Ruckert's not a guarantee. His scholarship is up. He's going to have to go out there and prove it. You look on the offensive line, guys like Carter Warren and Max Mitchell. Those guys are not. Their scholarship is up as well. The Jets went out and drafted a tackle. That should be a message. They signed Chooks Okorafor from. I guess you would say he's from the Patriots, even though he only played for them for about a minute. And so, all those guys could be in danger at wide receiver after Garrett Wilson. Like I said earlier, Lazard, Reynolds, Tyler Johnson, none of those guys are guaranteed anything. On defense, they are kind of thin on the defensive line. So, all those defensive tackles they signed, I don't think all 3 of them are going to make the team. So someone will probably get cut. And, all those safeties, all of them aren't going to make the team. So, and the kicking situation is wide open. How many kickers do they have now? They have 3, right? They still have Zerline, which surprises me. They got Anders and Anders Carlson, and they signed. Didn't they just sign a kid from Missouri? Was it the Missouri kicker, or where is he from? I'm blanking.
I missed it, but they did add someone. Yeah,
they did add kickers, so they have 3 kickers and 2 punters on the roster. So I suspect someone, a couple of those guys won't make it to training camp.
A lot of people in the chat saying Clemens is another guy, Michael Clemens. I actually am surprised Clemens is still on this team. I mean, is he going to be on the team when we get to week 1, Rich?
Actually, we were just talking about Jeff Ulbrich. It's been the NFL Network is reporting that Jeff Ulbrich was fined $100,000, and the Falcons were fined $250,000 and for the prank call episode. So,
wow.
Yeah,
his kid cost him $100,000. That is that's coming out of the
that's $100,000 phone call. Boy, that is the rates have gone up. That is a pricey phone call. Boy, that's rough. But what were we talking about?
Michael Clemens, if he's
Oh,
going to
Clemens. I know Jet fans love Michael Clemens.
Oh, yes.
So look, I get it. He was not good last year, but he was in a starting role. He was playing 40 snaps a game. He is not a 40 snap a game player. He's the kind of guy you want out there for 15 or 20 snaps to come in and spell your defensive end. He had to play way over his threshold because of, Reddick was a disaster. Jermaine Johnson got hurt. So all of a sudden they're hurting for depth at defensive end. So Michael Clemens gets pushed up into the starting lineup. He lacked awareness, ball awareness. How many times did he get faked on bootlegs, play action? My God, he was like the misdirection. He took the bait on misdirection more than any player I've ever seen. And, he lost his temper. He had some dumb penalties. And so, but he's 6'5" and he's 275 and he's got some unbelievable traits. And so Aaron Glenn is looking at this guy and saying, oh my God, this is how a defensive end is supposed to be built. Let's give him a chance. So I think he will go to training camp and he will get a chance to prove he belongs on the team.
I'm sure there's some loud groans all throughout the Jake Asman Show audience hear that, but I do get what you're saying there.
Yeah.
Couple final questions for you, Rich. Joey Matt, and by the way, Joey, thanks for the $20 super chat. You're in our next raffle for 5 with this. I love that they signed Fields, but why not draft Kyle McCord late? He was there for the taking. Frustrating to see the Eagles take him. A very smart organization. Rich, you're a Syracuse guy as well. I know you taught a couple of courses over the last several years there. You got back from Q's just the other day. Your thoughts on Kyle McCord, who grew up a Jet fan and wears number 6 because of Mark Sanchez not being a Jet?
Yeah, it'll be hard to remain objective as I'm sitting here with my Syracuse sweatshirt on. So it's hard to. But look, I watched a lot of Kyle McCord this year. I do think he's a good quarterback. The Eagles are a smart organization, as Joey Matt points out. And I thought that would have been a good draft pick. As we said at the top of the show, I thought you always want to feed the pipeline at quarterback. You can never have too many quarterbacks. I guess the Browns maybe took it a little too far this year, drafting 2. But I thought, given the Jets' situation, beyond this year, what the Jets' quarterback situation looks like, is Jordan Travis going to develop into anything? The odds are against it, just because of he was a 5th round pick and the fact that he's coming off a horrific injury. But yes, they should have drafted a guy like McCord. I agree.
Super chat from PBM, Purple Belt Mike. Any hope that we don't lose games because we can't stop the run? Shake my head. I have nightmares of the Colts, Niners, Seahawks, and Pats games.
Yeah, Purple, I would say this. The Jets were 3-7 in 1-score games last year because they were horribly coached, because they led the league in penalties, or if not led the league, or were very close to the top. I think if Aaron Glenn can coach the way I think he can coach, they will be much better at situational football. And really, situational football is where you win and lose games. How many games did they lose in the final 2 minutes? Yeah, we'd like to blame Aaron Rodgers because he didn't get it done in 2 or 3, maybe even 4 games in down in crunch time. But how many times did the defense give it up too? The New England game, they gave it up.
Colt game.
The worst was the Colt game. Anthony Richardson, who might be the worst starting quarterback in the league, morphs into Patrick Mahomes on the last drive and goes down and leads him to a touchdown. So better situational football will equal better results in close games. And as for the run defense, like I said earlier, I think scheme will help them improve in that area.
This one is from the big fella who says, Rich, Xavier Gibson, in my opinion, is as good as gone. Who's our number 2 wide receiver? Seems to be a logjam of mid receivers.
Yeah, a lot of mid receivers. But you know what? If they lined up today, I think Gibson would probably be their slot receiver.
Over Corley?
Oh, no question.
Yeah.
No question right now over Corley. But I think it's a work in progress. Gibson didn't progress as much as I had hoped as a returner after that amazing start. a couple of years ago against Buffalo. I guess it would be hard to maintain that, but kind of regressed as a returner. And so there'll be more competition there now for him. And so, yeah, he's another one of those guys. The scholarship is up. He's going to have to come in and prove that he deserves a spot on the team. He has not produced as a receiver. And, there'll be some good – they probably got like 7 or 8 receivers competing for like 5 or 6 spots.
I'll get you out of here on this, Rich. In your lifetime covering the Jets, what is your favorite memory from covering the draft? It could be something that happened behind the scenes. It could be a particular pick. Just a cool story to share with the audience in your experience covering Jets drafts.
That's a great one. Boy, I wish I had time to think about that a little bit. The year they had 4 first-round picks was, we talk about talk about tough on deadline, writing for that, could you imagine the only team in NFL history that had 4 first-round picks.
And everyone, by the way, should listen to Rich's Flight Deck podcast where he had all 4 of the 2000 first-round picks the Jets made on together, and it was an excellent interview.
Well, thank you. That was really fun to do, and those guys were very cooperative. So I can't. That would have been tough in the days of like the internet age now, because now we're required to put stuff up immediately on ESPN.com. Back, I was working for the Daily News at the time, and so it wasn't the immediacy. But they drafted Ellis and Abraham, and then you're writing your story, and then all of a sudden they draft a quarterback, and of course that changes the story, which had Pennington, and so that was But I can recover, 30 years ago, the Kyle Brady draft. Everyone's screaming for Warren Sapp, and then they go and draft Brady, and he gets booed. And I felt so bad for Kyle Brady. He didn't know what hit him. It's like it was a New York audience, and so that was a really interesting draft. Everyone ripping the Jets for not drafting Warren Sapp, and I guess they passed on a Hall of Fame defensive tackle. But every draft has its own story, Jake, and I can't think of any. I'm sure if you named a year, I remember when Aaron Glenn got drafted. That's how far back I go. Everyone thought they were drafting a receiver that year from Colorado named Charles Johnson. That was the chalk pick. I wrote a big feature about him. That was going to be the pick. And then all of a sudden the Jets trade up a couple of spots and they take Aaron Glenn, and he really wasn't on anybody's radar because we thought he'd be gone. And that's how they got Aaron Glenn. So that was a bit of a surprise. It turned out to be I went up to Pete Carroll at the in West Palm Beach a few weeks ago, and I said, "Hey, Pete, just talking to Aaron Glenn about you. He said he owes you a lot." And the first thing Pete said was, "Great pick, right?" Pete was, of course, the coach in '94 when Aaron Glenn was the player.
That's an awesome story. We'll end it on that. Rich, always appreciate your time. Thanks so much for hopping on. I'm sure we'll do it again at some point soon, and we'll find out what the next big story is for the Jets. Hopefully, I think many Jet fans are hoping it's contract extensions for either Sauce, Garrett, or both.
All right, we'll keep you plugged in on that. Always a pleasure to be with you, Jake. You're the best, and we'll chat down the road.
He's ESPN Jets reporter Rich Cimini. Check out his podcast. Rich is going to have a new episode of Flight Deck that's coming out later this week, so check that out wherever you get your podcast. Hit the like button if you're just tuning in. Speaking of podcasts, reminder, this show on YouTube you can get in audio form on Apple or Spotify, so just search Jake Asman Show, and you will be able to listen to anything you might have missed. Also want to remind people that we are accepting entries in the Asmaniac raffle number 25. First time we've ever given away a full-size throwback Broadway Joe helmet. We've given out Namath helmets. We have never given out a full-size one, and we have never given out a throwback one that is full-size. So we're combining the two. Your chance to win this, and the other prizes include signed Justin Fields helmet, who I saw last night at the Knicks game, and then also a signed Joe Klecko helmet as our top prizes. So, comments, questions, super chats, cut the line. What did you guys think of the conversation with Rich there? Thought that we got some good nuggets on a lot of different topics there involving the Jets. And to me, the UDFA that I am the most intrigued by is the guy that Rich talked about, Donovan Edwards, because I watched him at Michigan too, not as much as Rich said his son went to Michigan. That's the connection there. But this guy was on the cover of the EA Sports video game, and he goes undrafted. So maybe it took him a little bit coming off some injuries to get healthy, but we know this team wants to run the football. So, that's a guy, as far as like notable UDFAs, that intrigued me. Gusbuster Umbrella Hotline. It's open. The link is pinned if you want to join the show. You click it to join. Ladies and gentlemen, let's take your calls right now. If you want to buy the #1 umbrella in the universe, go to gusbuster.com and make sure you use promo code Jake25 for a discount at checkout. Here we go. Scotty Mayhem is first today. What's up, Scotty?
Well, first, Jake, I mean, that was great. I really enjoyed the insights of Rich. He's really plugged in and had a lot of really interesting nuggets, like you said. I had a chance this morning, and I forwarded it to you if you haven't seen it yet, the Dan Orlovsky take. I really enjoyed Dan.
I actually saw it already. I watched that interview. It's the conversation where he called the Jets winners of the draft, them and the Giants.
Yeah, I think the problem that we're having is obviously all of us who are, big fans really are perplexed by that 4th-round pick by the receiver who shall not be named. The only thing I liked about the pick is his initials, AS, because it reminds me of my favorite podcast, Mr. Asman. So those initials are positive, but, it was such a reach. I mean, let's be real. We could have had him either as an unsigned receiver, I don't even think he was going to get drafted, or maybe a late round pick, maybe, in the 7th round, had we not made all those trades. That was the problem that we all have with this draft. I think if you look at some of the other players, like Azariah Thomas, I mean, that was a pure value pick. Clearly, many of the people that we watched said he was going to be a 2nd rounder, and for whatever reason, he fell. I think it's a blessing that he ran the 4.58 because his tape does not look that way. He looks like he can run with anybody. So I'm not concerned about that. I do think, it wasn't an area of need. Had we taken a defensive lineman, because there were like 3 that I was drooling for, at pick 110, I think this wouldn't be a B class. I think everybody would acknowledge this as an A class. So I think that's where the mistake was made, just overreaching for this wide receiver. And I clearly think we could have gotten him much later. And that's why I think we're all down on this. But otherwise, take a look at the safety. People are raving about him and that pick. And otherwise, I mean, Taylor was suggested to be, clearly an early 2nd round. Some of the people were saying he was going to be a late 1st round pick. So I just love the Membu pick. I love the draft overall, but the receiver was the problem for most of us. And I think that's where we're all going off the rails.
Yeah, very fair. The thing I would say is it feels like a reach, but they didn't reach with their 1st, 2nd, or 3rd round picks, and those have a way higher hit rate than anything you do on day 3, including a 4th round pick. So I didn't love it, but I'm also not going to go crazy over that. To me, there should be more outrage, if we want to use the term outrage, because at the end of the day, the draft, especially on day 3, is a crapshoot, over not at least trying to take a defensive tackle at some point. I didn't have the stat. Rich said it during the interview. 30 DTs are drafted, and you have a glaring need there, and you don't take one at any point, and you had 7 picks. That, to me, I just don't like that. I don't think that's a good job of playing the draft to its strengths. Like, you want good players, but you also want to build a football team. Like, you can't always just do BPA. That gets you Jamal Adams and Marcus May in back-to-back picks in the 1st and 2nd round. On day 3, how do you not take a chance on the DT when there were 2nd, 3rd round graded players that were available on day 3 in the 4th round?
I think that at the end of the day, I agree. I think the overall draft we're going to be really happy with. I think we're going to have at least 3 or 4 starters in the next couple of years, including the safety. I think Azariah Thomas is going to be an absolute stud. But here's the thing. I think what a lot of us who are crazy fanatics, most of whom are your fans and are come to your show all the time, are going to look at the defensive tackles that the Jets could have had at 110, and they're going to compare that to the person that we drafted. Now, I hope he's an absolute star and he fixes his drops, because he doesn't have good speed. He has Tyreek Hill's speed. I've heard 3 people say that they were amazed that he ran a 4.36. They thought he was going to break the record. So this isn't a guy who's fast. This isn't a guy who is elite fast. And so if he can catch the ball, yeah, he's going to be an amazing resource for the team. But I think that's what we're all going to look at. We're going to look at the Ty Robinson or the Farmer or whoever else we could have picked at that 110, and we didn't do it. I'm amazed. We could have had this wide receiver much later.
I agree. Scotty, great call, man. Where are you based, by the way? I feel like you got to come to one of our Asmaniac meetups.
So I would love to. I was a season ticket holder for like 30 years, but I recently moved to Florida. So I'm
Okay.
out here, in Florida. So if you guys ever come out here, I will definitely meet up. But yeah, I would have been at all your events 2 years ago, but unfortunately now I'm out here. So
I love it. Well, I'll tell you what, Scotty, we're waiting for the schedule to come out on May 14th, but the plan is to hopefully maybe do one of those Florida games. I know a lot of people want Tampa. Florida is my third most viewed state of people that tune into the show. So definitely want to do something in the state of Florida if we can make it happen.
let me know, man. I'll be there, and I'll be the chairperson of the Florida, event. So let me know.
Love it. Scotty Vahab checking in. Love it. Scotty's going to be in our tournament this year. I can see it. He's a great caller. Provides a lot of good insight. Man with a Rake is the first person to gift a channel membership an hour into the show. Let's go, Man with a Rake. You are in the raffle for one. Also, I'm seeing this comment here from Smoke Champ. Jake, my debit card charged me for a membership late last night. Does it still count for a raffle ticket? I didn't see that you did that, Smoke Champ, but I believe you. All right. I'll take your word for it. I will add you to the raffle for one. I could look into it after the show, but I'll take your word for it. Also, I do have a programming note I would like to share. For those of you who are interested in joining us at Yankee Stadium on June 29th for the Asmaniac Game of Champions, right? Our group buy for Yankees this season. I will have a link potentially available later today for you to lock in your ticket. Each ticket is $120. We have great seats. We're sitting in section 223. We will do a pregame meetup at Billy's Sports Bar, have our own little area to hang out at 11 a.m. That will start. The game is at 1:30. So family affair. If you're going to come to the pregame meetup, it is 21 plus. But that info will be available in the Discord. I secured about 40 tickets. So it's first come, first serve. If it doesn't sell out in the Discord, we will open it up to the general public. But I'm pretty confident that with the 500 plus people we have in the Discord, we're going to be able to sell the tickets. And then I'll try and get more if possible, but it's not guaranteed. So if you're interested in the Yankees outing, patreon.com/Jake Asman Show. And then join the Discord. Click the link on the dashboard to get in there if you want in on that awesome meetup opportunity. Comes with your membership, these perks, these group buys, discounted tickets for doing the group buy. Anyone who came to our Knicks meetup knows what we did for that one. All right, more of your calls right now. Let's say hello to a good friend of this show. Right now, it is Clifton time.
What's going on, Jake?
What's up, Kyle? How are you?
Good. You know the T-shirt?
Oh, look at that. Is that
Aquaman?
Love
Yeah,
it.
it's a Gormani exchange.
Speaking of Gormani, where has Charles been? He hasn't called into the show in a couple of days.
Yeah, it was great to meet him. He's a great kid. So hopefully he'll see this and know that he's missed.
Charles, if you're out there, call in immediately. We all want to hear from you.
Interesting discussion with Cimini. I think that maybe some of the injuries with Arian Smith was quite illuminating. Like, I don't know if that makes me feel any better about the fourth round pick, but I'm not going to dwell on that. I want to dwell on like the holes that we still have. We've all talked about receiver. You guys talked about it with Rich. Edge is still a problem, right? Like, we need to see a leap from Will McDonald with regards to the run this year. We need to, Tyler Barron apparently is a decent edge setter. I know that Clemens has the prototypical size that Glenn is going to look for in his edges, but we're still banking on JJ coming back and being who he was with establishing the edge and getting some some power pass rush. Like, I think that's the top priority post draft free agency market is edge. We got to get somebody in here because we might be able to make do with some of these receivers that are out there. If we don't get another edge in here, I think we're going to be in big trouble.
I think they're going to wait. I think Cimini made a good point on how we look at Clemens like he stinks. Glenn looks at him like, look at his size, look at his traits. I could coach that guy up. So right. I think we're going to wait and see on that. And then the kid they drafted from Miami, Tyler Barron, who I know like Steve Menchie was talking about it on the McShay show, the value there. He thinks he's a really good player. Like, I think there's a chance that maybe they look at him as someone to push Clemens in that defensive edge room.
All right. Also, in the UDFA market, this kid from West Virginia, Fatorma something or other. Have you seen this guy?
I like the fact that he has fat spelt in his name. That should help Quinnen.
Well, I mean, you can't go wrong with a fat guy in the middle.
That's right. That's a big fatty, as Neil would call him.
Yeah, but that's a guy that we'd have to watch to threaten for some snaps as a one tech, I would think. But that's pretty much all I had today. I'm looking forward to getting into some of the camps and seeing some of these guys out in the field and seeing what they can do. I think that we're all kind of burnt out a little bit on draft stuff, and maybe we can see some movement here in post-draft free agency. Thanks for your time.
It'd be nice to get another veteran. I'm with you there, Kyle. It doesn't sound like they're going to do it. I think they should sign a defensive tackle still, though. Foley Fatukasi's out there. You heard what Rich said about him being a good scheme fit for Glenn. I'm in. All right, open phone lines if anyone wants in on the conversation. Comments, questions, super chats. We'll cut the line. If you missed yesterday's show, the first show of the day, it was wild. I don't know how else to describe it. Beast Breaker's arch nemesis, Bobby Beasley, finally called in. And we finally had the Beast Breaker versus Bobby Beasley face-off that we have all been waiting for. On the line right now is a guy who is claiming to be Bobby Beasley, Beast Breaker's arch nemesis. Mr. Beasley, is this you?
We went to high school. He was having some degree of difficulty graduating, and they had me there as a mentor for him. When I was mentoring him, he discovered that I was training to become a professional wrestler. I come from a professional wrestling family. He would take all these stories about Cary High School, being prom king, and this and that. That's all stuff that comes from my life. 100% of what he comes up with, he's taking that from my life.
Is that Beasley?
That is. That's a son of a bitch I want.
What is the backstory? Why he doesn't like you?
Jealousy is what I would imagine.
He doesn't have a daughter?
Yeah, as far as I know, no daughter.
He's a son of a bitch.
Calm down. Is he a Jets fan? You can't say he's not a Jets fan.
I would imagine he's a Chicago Bears fan.
But he has actual Jets gear.
I think he probably bought that before he got on your show, man.
There once was a woman who called in named Julie that was his sister-in-law. Is she not real?
No. I don't think anyone's out there claiming Beast Breaker 666 is a relative.
We'll get to the bottom of this piece, all right?
This is it, Beasley.
But
you are not Asmaniacs. You're not real New York Jet. You're a lion sack of dog crap, just like your life is. And I'm going to put you in submission with this belt.
We have two sides to the story now. And I'm not saying you're not telling the truth or anything like that. It's our first experience with you, Mr. Beasley, here, so I'm just trying to get some more background information on the whole thing.
I worked my ass off to come out here. I put blood and sweat and tears and agony and grief and pain.
Gator says, what actual evidence do you have for your claims?
Just messages from friends.
Interesting. All right, let's check in with Beast right now.
There are layers to this, man. Jason, it's good to see you, my friend.
Calm down, Beast.
Easy, pal.
Say I can't take
risk come on.
I've heard some hot bullshit from a clown like that. That guy is a disgrace to the Asmaniacs. I've been on this show more times. I've bled, fight, kick, scratched and did more than you. And I got more balls than you.
I don't know what his obsession is with me, to be honest, man.
Yeah, we've heard a lot about you, but Beast does not like you, obviously. Just that you're his arch nemesis. He's screaming and yelling that you're invading the show. You're in the chat. Huh? Did you meet him in high school? Was he your mentor, Beast? Let's start there.
No, he never went to Cary High School. Never did. He's not an Asmaniac. He's not a Jet fan. Hiding in his basement with his little pink panties on and a tutu on.
I went to Cary. I definitely mentored the man. I've got pictures to prove it, too, now that I'm looking through my Facebook right now.
We want to see some photos of you two together.
I certainly have those.
Why the fuck are you even doing this?
Because I've got a big heart, sir.
Bobby Beasley, I'm sorry to tell you, you guys didn't go to the same high school. You guys met at some fruity wrestling event, and now you're just messing with the guy. You are just trying to ruin Beastbreaker's big moment. I don't care what you say. Half the stuff Beastbreaker tells us, we know is bullshit. Who cares? He's our guy. You coming on this show, you're doing nothing for him. If you cared about him, you wouldn't come on here dogging him and making him act like his whole act is a whole.
Oh, what have I said? What have I said that has dogged him? Did I meet him at a wrestling? No, I met him in school. What the hell are you talking about?
Bullshit. You did not meet him in school. Listen, bro, if you cared about Beast, there's no reason you would have came on the show.
Hey, don't bro me, man, all right? Are you an actual lawyer or what, man?
Yeah, I am a lawyer. Why?
Fantastic. No, I was just curious.
You like to pose for little boys in gay porn magazines.
I don't even know what the hell that is, but somehow you do.
Bobby Beasley, you need to show us a lot more proof. I still don't understand if you cared about Beast for a second. You wouldn't.
There's an episode 2, man. I can guarantee it.
So that happened yesterday. Obviously, the chat took Beast's side. He's one of our own. We're Team Beastbreaker on the show. And yesterday, Beastbreaker put out an official victory statement on his Instagram account. I do want to warn people, if you have small children around, to cover their eyes.
Everybody, how are you all doing tonight? Right now, I'm in a great mood because I finally crushed that son of a bitch, Bobby Beasley. Now, he is non-existent. He's a low-life, cocksucking, smuggling piece of human garbage. He's been destroyed, and now, after being exposed all over the Jake Asman show, now the time has come for me to be at peace. And, after all, after what he's done for 3 years, he's finally been exposed. I warned you, Bobby Beasley, that this day will be your last. And it was your last. Goodbye, Bobby Beasley. I'll see you in the pits of hell. And when you get there, make sure you burn in hell.
What a moment, huh? Yikes. That happened. Beast believes he defeated Beasley. We'll see if Beasley ever responds. Anthony writes in, still laughing from yesterday, and lawyer Bonesy coming to defend Beast was can't miss TV. Absolutely electric. Bonesy keeping a straight face when asked if he's a lawyer was all time. Jed Jarl, what the hell did I miss? I'll repeat a line I said yesterday. If you miss a minute of the show, you miss a lot. You never know what might happen. Mike says breast milker 666. Fair. Ralphie says, wait until Gary 3D sees those moves. Unbelievable. All right, more of your calls right now. Open phone lines. Want to remind everyone, today's the last day of April. Starting tomorrow, all your calls in the month of May go towards our monthly rankings, which pick back up tomorrow. The committee's back. Well, one member of the committee, Boomtown, back with our monthly rankings starting tomorrow. Let's say hello right now to Adam, who's on the line. What's up, Adam?
What's going on, Jay? You all good?
Hey, Adam. Nice to get a call from the UK. What's going on?
Not much, man. It's really, really hot here today, which is very unseasonably for over here.
What's hot for you guys?
We do centigrade. So you guys do Fahrenheit. 24, which is, I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit. 70
what
something.
What is 24 degrees Celsius in Fahrenheit? So that'd be like 75.
That is hot for us, mate. That is like really hot for us. Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, I thought I'd call it. It's been a while. I can't even. Beast is like some. There's no one in the UK like Beast. Beast is like he is a unique individual. Like he is. He's crazy, man. But you know what? He calls. He loves the show. I mean, you can't knock him, can you? You know what a guy. Now look, I mean the draft. It's just so up and down, wasn't it? There were so many definitely positives. Obviously, I've been in the chat very frequently. Said I love Malachi Moore. Like I think he's great. Like such an intelligent player. I think it's difficult. Certain positions you look for the elite speed or the elite size and all that sort of stuff, and I get that. I understand why teams draft that way. But sometimes you can't knock intelligence and ability to play a position. And I look at somebody like Hairston that went to the Bills, only went there for speed. I don't look at someone like him and say, oh, he's going to be a top 5 corner in the league. He won't be. He's a speed guy. Like I think all round AZ Thomas might end up being a better corner than him. It's whether you prefer an elite trait or you prefer like a more well-rounded player. It's kind of the same with Arian Smith. They've kind of looked at him and gone, he's got an elite trait. He's got one elite trait, and we're going to coach that to that. We're going to make sure he can catch the ball and all that sort of stuff, work with him and make him better. I just think that's your big criticism pick. You know, like Ironman was on the board still. Royals was on the board still.
Yep.
More polished receivers that I would say would have been a safer pick. And Arian Smith, I think he probably would have been there as a UDFA. I don't think anyone would have took him. If he had gone and ran the 40 time that everyone thought he was, and if he broke the record, like a lot of people thought he could have broke the record, it was actually almost surprising that he got such a low 40 time. So if he had done that, he would have gone higher. But I think it's elite traits versus well-rounded players. And for me, I would always draft a well-rounded player rather than an elite trait because they're going to contribute quicker and maybe in the first season or second season, rather than you having to work with them for 3 years and then not getting it out of them because they can't bring all the game together. You see, that's kind of where I would go with it. It's more well-rounded players. And not taking a D tackle was pretty crazy for me. I mean, like it was such a loaded class. There were so many guys you could have took. I really wanted Jamari Caldwell. He went to the Chargers. That was a great pick by them. But look, none of us know, right? No one thought the Seahawks draft in 2012 was a good draft. It got an F by Bleacher Report and all that sort of stuff. And then they go and won Super Bowls with those players. So who knows, right?
Look at the draft. The draft could be a crapshoot at times. I think that's why we focus in on the process. Like, did you get good value? Like, did you get extra picks? Did you play the board? And that's where I think it's fair criticism for some of the day 3 picks. But I don't think anyone could dispute, Adam, what they did the first 2 days, really. Even the Thomas pick, maybe it's not a need, but he's a really good player, I think. If they get that one right, like, you're not going to care. So I guess time will tell. But I would say this. I think we're going to be really pleased with Membu, and we're going to be pleased with Taylor for sure. I think they finally got a real tight end. I could be dead wrong on Taylor. I mean, I'm pretty sure I liked Jason Morrow when they took him in the second round years ago out of Texas Tech, but I think Mason Taylor is going to be good.
He's got all the attributes to be an NFL tight end. He could get a bit better at blocking. It's not something that's a strength of his. But
he's only 20 too. He's young. He's going to get bigger and stronger.
Yeah, exactly. He's so young. I think they actually targeted a lot of younger players at the start. Like Armor Membu's obviously really young as well, so it's not a bad idea. You can then give yourself a 10-year starter. And look, if Taylor's an average tight end for 10 years for the Jets, it's still a great pick. You know, like even if you're getting like complementary numbers to your wide receivers out of him, I think that's still good. I think this year will be difficult because he's going to have to be, at the minute, he'll probably be a number 2 receiving threat. I don't see that. I think he'll be second in yards to Garrett Wilson at the end of the season. I would say. I don't imagine that any of the wide receivers we've got on the roster at the minute are going to put up 500, 600 plus yards. I'd be really surprised.
Yeah, I think Reynolds has a chance. Lazard. I mean, it's just a bunch of mids. So whoever emerges, I guess, will be the second receiver.
Hopefully, Corley takes a step in the right direction. I liked Corley when we drafted him. You know, like he had the Deebo Samuel comps and all that, but I think the problem with having a Deebo Samuel comp is that Deebo Samuel is not a traditional wide receiver. So if you're comp to someone that's very unique skill set, you have to be as good at the unique skill set as them. And Corley struggles with his route running. He struggles with the overall sort of speed of the game. I mean, when he came in for games, I mean, the one where he dropped, look, we can't hound him for that forever. We won that game, right? I know it sounds really silly. If we hadn't have won that game, it would have been so much worse. We did win that game. He has to hold on to that. I don't know why, as a general point, I don't know why players drop the ball. Just keep it in your hands. You don't need to drop the ball. Like, just keep it in your hands. For that. It happens so often, and I can't understand why it happens. Keep the ball in your hands. If that's your first touchdown in the NFL, I'd be holding on to it like a baby. Right. I wouldn't want to give that away to anyone. I'd be like, right, this is my ball. It's going in my office, whatever. Like, why you wanting to drop it, I don't know. But we can't hound him for that forever. I still think Malachi Corley can be a contributor on this team. I don't know if he can be a wide receiver too, though.
Yeah, look, fair points. We'll find out how this coaching staff feels about him. And I think it is interesting. Someone asked, I think it was Leon, very good question. You know, how does having the same receivers coach in that room impact the perception of Corley in that building when the head coach and so much of the offensive staff is brand new because he's one of the holdovers. So we'll see. I mean, in a perfect world, he'd be awesome. But, you know, I have some doubts. We will see.
Sure. Well, thank you for the time, Jake. I really appreciate it. And I'll call again soon.
Now, Adam, tell us about, actually, were you on, I know Chad Pennington did like a Q&A with the UK Jets crew, right? Were you a part of that?
No, I wasn't. I was aware it was happening. I had a couple of guys contact me to say it was happening. We've just moved house. So with our new house at the minute, I've been like.
Are you in London? I forget what part of the UK you're in.
Nottingham. So it's 2 hours north of London.
Nice. I'm assuming you're going to the game this year, right?
No, because the baby's due that week. So
that's what you were saying. So what if the timing works out though? You think you could swing it?
I don't know. I mean, it's tough, isn't it? Like,
yeah,
you know, like my wife's a big Jets fan as well, so I think if I went to the game and she didn't, she'd be pretty annoyed at me, to be fair. So it might be the baby's first game. You know, we've got a little Jets baby growing, all that sort of stuff. So it might be their first game at home. So it just would be that we're the home team this year as well, wouldn't it? It's all timing, isn't it?
I know. I'll continue to say it. I was blown away by the amount of Jets fans that are in the UK. It really is amazing. I was like, why? I'll never figure it out, but it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, man. I don't. It is weird that we have such a massive fan base in the UK with the Jets. I couldn't tell you why, but we do. It's honestly one of the biggest ones, and I think it's the reason we keep getting London games. I think they're doing it based on how many the size of the fan bases. We had 2021. We had the Vikings game, and we're going to have this one again. So it seems to be that we are quite a popular team in the UK. Hopefully, we'll reward that popularity with some wins and a positive season this season.
Love it. Adam, great call, man. Appreciate you.
Sweet.
Adam on the line, and now he's off the line. Who's up next? Call in if you want in on the conversation. Sam writes in, Bonesy is the real MVP. Wide receiver A.O. Maynor was available. Why is Lazard still a Jet? I wish I could tell you, Sam. They clearly wanted him back at a certain price because of his blocking. I think they should have just moved on. I already saw what Lazard was without Aaron Rodgers. We saw it in 2023. I'm good. I don't like not getting a veteran to that room besides Josh Reynolds. I'm not even counting Tyler Johnson. I would sign Keenan Allen for what it's worth. They need a slot receiver. He's good in the slot. He still could play. Won't cost you a lot. It'd be a one-year deal. That's what I would do. They're not going to do it, though. They don't listen to anything I want. Bonesy, the real MVP. Let's talk about that for a moment. And by the way, Sam, you're on the raffle for 2 with this $10 super chat. Yesterday, Mr. Bonesy put his lawyer hat on. Some are saying, moving forward, you better call Bonesy.
Are you an actual lawyer or what, man?
Yeah, I am a lawyer.
If the shoe fits, you must acquit. Mr. Bonesy, attorney at law. The law offices of Alden and Bonesy. Incredible. Incredible. Shout out to Gator for that masterpiece. Ladies and gentlemen, there's only one man on hold. And that one man better be wearing a shirt because this was quite frankly scary yesterday.
Right now, we're getting some gabagool. If you really want some gabagool, you gotta come get the gabagool. Catch you later.
Hello,
Buenos
BC.
dias, Jake. You notice we're wearing a straw hat. You know why? We're cooking some tacos. We don't know what we're cooking, baby. Anybody hungry for some tacos? Come on down and get you some tacos. It's fresh.
Beast, move the microphone so we can see you cook the tacos.
Now, this is what we did, ladies and gentlemen. This right here, perfectly seasoned, fresh cracked pepper, fresh seasoned salt. Right here. A good portion of great, good old-fashioned. You can do it either way, 2 different ways. You can have corn, which I call that cardboard, or we can get some flour tortillas and eat like champions. Now, this right here, got this yesterday, fresh lettuce. Now, get over here, pay attention, watch closely how we cut our lettuce. This is how we hold our lettuce. Right here, here she goes. Now, another position. There. Boom. That is how you're supposed to cut a lettuce. That is how you prepare a lettuce. You cut it, you cook it, you don't cook it, you cut it and get it ready. I'm about to get these tacos pumped, and today is a great day. Let's enjoy today and next week. Guess what's next week, Mr. Jake? El 5 de Mayo! Arriba! You know, woo!
Breaker 666, he's the man who would kick your ass, and then he's gabagoo.
Another great call by Beastbreaker 666. Ref fan, I like how Beast never shows the cooking process, just the ingredients. Jay needs a training bra. Leon, those are some ugly ass boobs. Mike says Chef Kevin needs to rate the knife skills. Chuck just ate breakfast and now I'm hungry again. Nate says he stole that lettuce from Little Joey. Bill M, chicken or Little Joey? Guys, he's not eating Little Joey. Stop it. Ladies and gentlemen, we've reached the portion of the show where if you don't call in, we'll end the show. Or if you don't have a question or a comment you want me to react to or respond to, we'll end the show. So, a little rapid fire here before we wrap things up today. A little Ask Jake Anything. Jake's takes, if you will. Bill M says, Beast Summer Hat is fire. I agree. Eric says, can I hire Bonesy to sue Jake for exposing me to that? Bonesy, attorney at law. Addison says, he looked like Farmer Fran from The Waterboy. Big fella, has Beast ever heard of Peruvian dish koi or koi? Koi? C-U-Y? More of your calls right now. JT is called in. He's next. Hello, JT.
Yo, Jake. What's up, man?
What's going on, JT? Let's go, Yanks. Nice to see a win last night.
Oh, absolutely. I'll actually be in attendance today.
Oh, you're going? That's right. You don't live that far. Nice.
No, yeah, I'm like just under 2 hours from Baltimore now, so I'll be there in attendance tonight. I hope to save some runs for tonight, though. I was getting a little scared that they'd max out last night.
Crazy, man. I didn't even get to see the home run onslaught because I was like checking into the Knick game and I was like alert. I was like, holy! I mean, they hit 3 straight and then they hit the 4th. I'm like, you got to be kidding me.
Dude, I had just got done like making dinner, everything, third on, and I barely got a chance to even take a bite of my dinner before we had 4 runs on the board.
Yeah, crazy,
ridiculous, man. Or was it 5? It was 4 solos, right, in the first.
Mm-hmm. The Orioles got some real problems. I mean, they were supposed to take that step this year, and they just don't have pitching.
And their defense didn't look too good either, man. They were making some errors last night. That was unexpected because last year I feel like they were just one of those sound teams that never wowed you, but they were just a really good team last year. And this year they're not showing it. Were they 11-18, I believe, this year?
Yeah, they're struggling, man. They really are.
Yeah. But how about that Beasley and Beastbreaker thing yesterday, man? I had to go and catch myself up because I was busy as hell at work yesterday. So I caught myself up after, and man, was that a day of the Jake show.
Look, it was one of those shows that if you didn't see it, you missed greatness. It's the only way I could describe it.
Honestly, I got to catch up on the greatness. I wish I got to see it live, but man,
the chat was going crazy, as you would imagine.
It shows the live chat replay, so I was definitely keeping that up too while I was watching. But I got to be on Team Beast here, man. Beasley was believable for a little bit, but it's just I don't know. The more it kept going, it's just like it just smelled of shit to me. Pardon my French.
No, I agree. I think at first I wasn't sure, and then I think Beastbreaker did a great job exposing Bobby Beasley for the fraud he is.
Honestly, I was surprised they were able to get actually like a salient point out of Beast during that, like to kind of wrap that all together. And one more shout I want to make is Mr. Bonesy playing the lawyer game. He did really good.
He did. He stepped up too. That just shows you why he's our champ. Because at the end of the day, Bonesy, whether he likes Beast or not, Beast is part of the Asmaniac family here, and Bonesy came to his defense.
Dude, Bonesy is absolutely a champ for a reason, man. It's clear why he was the winner of Asmaniac Madness. And it's clear why I got my ass beat by him round one.
I love it. JT, you're the man, my friend. Great call.
Thank you, man. You have a good one.
Are you an actual lawyer or what, man?
Yeah, I am a lawyer.
It's incredible. The show is just the way it's evolved. Unbelievable. Abu Dhabi Jet fan in the house. We were talking about London before. I met Abu Dhabi in person when we were out in London for the game, and we did our event with the UK Jets crew. Jumped on late. Did Rich Cimini have any thoughts on the Beastbreaker versus Bobby Beasley steel cage match? We ran out of time to ask Rich about that, so next time he's on, we'll get his thoughts. Ref fan, we need an Asmaniac man boob tier list. I will let someone in the chat come up with that. PG says, what do you think about the true potential of this running game? I think they have a chance to lead the NFL in rushing. Doesn't mean they're going to be a good team, though. It might just be out of necessity. Do I think they should be top 5 in rushing? They better be, PG. Right? If the Jets aren't a top 5 rushing team, what is this offense with the receivers they have? And I mean, does anyone think Fields is going to be an elite pocket quarterback? I think he can get better, and he has improved statistically with his accuracy, completion percentage, all that. But if you're expecting Justin Fields to beat you through in the pocket, that's not his game, man. You got to design an offense that plays to his strengths. Get him on the run, play action, throw over the middle, one read, easy stuff. The threat of his legs should open things up. That's the point. PG, they failed if they're not a top 5 rushing team. They got to be top 3 to have a chance to be a good team. Unbelievable. Adam says, I listen to the afternoon show on my runs, and honestly, the pure randomness makes the run so much easier because I forget I'm running. Love it, Adam. Appreciate you. I mean, right now there's 446 of you in here right now. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. The goal is to get to 50,000 subscribers. We have the largest channel on YouTube that talks Jets every day, but I want more. I believe in this fan base, and if this team's decent, I think we're going to get to 50K at some point during the season next year. Jimbo says, thoughts on the game last night? I did a radio hit this morning on the Knicks. I'm just so disgusted, man. They don't put them away like they should. They come out in the third quarter in all these games, play like dog crap, and then expect just to be able to win in the fourth. And it works when you have Brunson for a while, but he had an off night. Then he obviously gets hurt on the court because we got to update the Fakakta Kith layout court, which is gross. The Knicks should only wear white at home. Don't get me started on that. with these bullshit jerseys they got to wear. Oh, I'm so disgusted. Terrible. Do I think the Knicks still win the series? I do, but it should have been over last night. And they're probably not going to have a real chance against Boston. But any chance I felt like they had, they needed to win the series in 5, get healthy, rest up. Now, Boston does what they do, right? Close for a half, blow out Orlando in the second half last night. They close them out in 5, and they get to regroup and reset. And the Knicks are going to be in a dogfight, even if they win tomorrow night against Detroit. It's not going to be easy. All these games have been close. So it's just terrible. And I was screaming for someone to foul Asar Thompson, put him on the line, and then, all right, he might miss the free throw, but either way, you have to get Brunson and Hart back in the game at the end there. I just did not agree, and this is not a second guess. And I'm a Tom Thibodeau guy. I really am. I think it's crazy when people talk about firing the guy because you're too emotional. But I thought that was bad coaching last night to not foul. I said it in real time, so I'm comfortable saying it on the air. Alan says, how could they be a top 5 rushing team when opposing teams will stack the box, daring a piss-poor passer to beat them? Well, a couple things, Alan. His passing should be improved. At least it was last year. 2, had Mark Sanchez do it, right? The box were stacked in 09. Guess what? Jets ran it down their throat. Boxers are stacked against Jalen Hurts and the Eagles. If you could run the football, if you could scheme it, block it, you could still run the ball. And then the threat of a Garrett Wilson and Mason Taylor over the middle and Breece Hall with screens. And that's you need to create a play caller. You're Mr. Lions, right? Ben Johnson. Oh, I want to rub his nipples. I love him so much. My name is Alan Avital. Well, hopefully Tanner Engstrand absorbs some of that and can call a creative offense. But they need to be a top 5 rushing team. Ralphie, how does Deuce miss the free throw on the front end? Horrible. Just know, no matter what the Jets do, Allen is going to say it's not going to work and they're going to be bad. Even though they hired the head coach he wanted, they moved on from Rodgers like he wanted. But it's never going to be good enough for Allen. And all you guys continue to take the bait as Allen sits there, rubs his man boobs, and gets all giddy about the Jets probably winning 4 or 5 games this year. That's your champion, people. Daniel Beware is up next. Hello, Daniel.
Hey, what's up, Jake? Long time no see.
What's up, Daniel? How are you?
I'm doing good. What about you?
I'm all right, man. I'm hanging in.
That's good. Well, I want to share some points about the main aspect of this new regime with Aaron Glenn. I think they're leaning more into the coaching side. They feel confident about they can coach up his players and they can play up to their standards. So I hope they can get that work done because, to be honest, they have built a good offensive line, but there's some lacks in some positions that you already have speak about, like tight end and a deep wide receiver. In this case, Aaron Smith is a deep threat, but we are not sure if he's going to be a good wide receiver. So I think that the decisions that made him took Aaron Smith in the 4th round, it is because they feel confident about their coaching team and the way that they can coach up his players. About the draft, I will give them a B+. I think Malachi Moore, it was a skipper because no one think about him until the 3rd round. So it is a good player to have as a backup in this case, or if not, we can develop him probably into a strong safety. I think that it is the boy that we need to fill in the most. And the edge rusher, I think his name is Baron. I'm not sure. I have seen some highlights, but it is going to be about really coaching because you can see some glances in these players, but if it's not about the coaching, they will not play into a winning culture. So I hope fucking Aaron Glenn does the job, man. I really do, because we've been through a lot. We have suffered a lot, and we deserve some fucking. I'm sorry for my words, but we deserve a winning season, man. You know,
Amen,
I
Daniel.
saw all the
Amen.
all
I'm tired of
I,
losing.
yeah, man, and also I know all the community that is behind of the Jets. It is a very passionate and brotherhood community, and I saw all the Asmania competition. It was great, man. I didn't thought that it will turn out like you did, so I congratulate you for doing that tournament and create all these connections with all these people that interacts in between the chats and the video call.
You gotta be in the tournament next year, Daniel. We need you to call in to be a part of it, man. You gotta, for those who don't know, because it's been a while since you called. You're based in Mexico, right?
Yeah, that's right, man.
You're based in Mexico. You came. I believe you told us once you became a Jet fan because of Mark Sanchez, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Yep. So,
yeah, that's right.
like, you got an awesome story, man. You're a diehard fan. You care about the team. You're calling a Jet show from Mexico. You got the chickens that everyone loves. I don't hear the chickens
Yeah.
this time, though. Normally, we hear the
Nah,
chickens in the background.
Yeah, they're in the background, but just they're eating worms and stuff like that.
I love it.
But yeah, man. Well, just to finish, thank you for the space, and just I think that just to finish, Jordan Travis and the Brady Cook competition, I think it will be interesting because Jordan Travis, it's been about 2 years that he hasn't really played into a game atmosphere, and Brady Cook comes into a rhythm where in Missouri he has to deliver some winnings and he was under pressure. So if Brady Cook wants to dedicate his life to be a quarterback, he needs to be a very talented but rusty athlete like Jordan Travis. I hope we can, between those two, get our backup quarterback in a long term so we can nail either Justin Fields or I don't know, man, probably Archie Manning, if that is a dream, probably. But if we nail into a franchise quarterback, we can have those guys into a cheaper contract and knowing that they have the potential to leading teams to leading wins and lead the team into 3 or 4 wins into the season. So yeah, that's my 5 cents in my opinion, Drake. I hope to call more often, and it's great to see you all guys out there. Peace out, bros.
I love it. Now, Daniel, before you go, did you see the Beast Breaker call where he showed off the tacos he was making? You saw that?
Yeah, I saw. Yeah, I saw. That's why I felt like more leaning into the making the call because he was making the tacos. And
do you think they were good tacos? Did they? You're obviously an expert on the topic. You've had the most authentic one could have of tacos for sure. Do you think those look like legitimate tacos in your humble opinion?
Man, you're putting me in a hard spot. Well, Beastbreaker, I am a fan of yours, but I mean, I doubt it, man. Not because of the way of cooking of Beastbreaker, probably, but you need to have some magic under the tacos.
I see. I see.
If one time I go to New York, I will cook some tacos for you guys. I will do it gladly. Probably in a tailgate. We do a carne asada at Tequila and beers and having a good time. It will be good. I can see it.
I love it. Hopefully you can make it to a game this year, Daniel. That'd be great. It'd be great to meet you in person.
Yeah, for sure, man. I will try to work my ass hard to get into New York and see one game. So
I love it. I love it. Daniel, beware, everybody. Great call live from Mexico. We've gotten a super chat from Jerusalem. We've gotten a super chat from Abu Dhabi. We got a call from Mexico. We got a call from London. We are all over the globe on this channel, folks. Jet fans are everywhere. As maniacs are everywhere. Unbelievable. Great call by Daniel. We need him part of the rotation again. I'm challenging all our great callers to be a part of the show in the month of May. Things are going to slow down a little bit as far as news. We'll have some OTAs and stuff, but we need everyone. All right. So make this show is not a show if it's just me for 20 minutes talking about whatever the topic is that day, or me with a guest for 30 minutes talking about the Jets. It's the chat and the calls that drive this show. By the way, no one has gifted a membership in a long time, so I'm going to do it myself. If you want a membership for a chance to win a Joe Namath helmet when you're a channel member, a Justin Fields helmet, or a Joe Klecko signed helmet, you have to be subscribed to the channel and like the video. So I'm going to give everyone 10 seconds to like the video right now. And I'm going to give everyone 10 seconds to subscribe to the channel. I'm going to gift the membership right now because we haven't had one in a while. If you get it, I'm entering you in the raffle. So if you hear your name called after I gift the membership, you're in. Ladies and gentlemen, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Membership officially gifted. Wow, before I can even do it, Adam beat me to the punch. Let's do Adam's first. Adam HW has gifted 1 channel membership.
You get the fuck out.
Hell yeah, Adam. Your membership went to listener W. Charles. So Adam is in our raffle for 1. I have gifted a channel membership officially, and that went to listener LB Norman. Yeah. Comments, questions, super chats, cut the line. Ladies and gentlemen, we need a lawyer, and we need one now.
Are you an actual lawyer or what, man?
Yeah, I am a lawyer.
Trouble, so you better call Bonesy. Ignore the shoes behind him. Those are law books. Those are law books.
Rex just wanted to say hello.
Hey, Rex.
And I got this champion on my lap right here.
Oh, is that Lola?
That is Lola.
Hi, Lola.
My phone is auto. So what's up, man? We're coming to the slow times.
1-800 Mr. Bonesy, attorney at law.
Sons. Got to speak to my team. If you guys need me for hire, at Jake Asman. That's how you get in contact with me. I'm a little better than a public defender, you know.
That was so good yesterday, man. Those are law books. Those are law.
You gotta, dude. Gator's comedy is just, it's just top. I call him the comedy genius for a reason, and when I saw that, he's just too much, man. Catchy song, You know what Snowball said I should have did? When I did my infamous really long speech, I should have just went up there and went like this. The only thing better than shoes.
That would have been great. You're right. That would have played.
That was such a good, he told me it after, of course. But if I would have did that, that would have probably, could have just did that and cheered, and everybody would have been like, oh, so good. But, But shout out to Snowball for the idea, and shout out to Gator for the comedy. We're gonna need it because this is about to be a real,
Yep.
Man, this is a dead time. I'm sitting here hanging out with you guys and just like, God damn, we're gonna get like nothing until rookie mini camp at least to just give us a little something to be excited about, but. At least we're starting to die down because I really couldn't hear any more people's grades on the draft. Obviously Glenn is betting on his coaching, and his coaching is going to have a lot to do with everything, especially Tanner. Man, I feel like Tanner has a lot of pressure on him because Glenn has showed us he could coach a good defense and rebound from injuries and still, be successful on that side of the ball. But we're going to see what. And I've been saying it with Fields. Like, I mean, Fields. Unfortunately, guys, Fields has never eclipsed 2,500 yards passing. So if we want to be those type of Jet fans and think, oh yeah, he's coming to the Jets, he's going to play his best ball here, because that's what we do. We get the best out of quarterbacks. I mean, that's what we do. We have blind hope. But I mean, maybe if Fields is going to be running a lot, we have to hope he stays healthy, number one, right? Because he hasn't had a full season in his career yet. Obviously, last year, he got benched, but it's going to be on Tanner to scheme people open. That's what's going to be the difference between this year's offense and last year's offense. Where last year it was on Rodgers. Rodgers was reading the defense and adjusting the plays accordingly. Where this year we need to scheme people open. It's going to be a one read offense and heavy running, and people are saying they're going to stack the box, but when the quarterback can run like Fields can, even stacking the box is like, you still got to account for Fields running it. And the speed element that we added in Smith hopefully helps us. Let's see who makes the team in terms of Corley and Gibson. I mean, we got a lot. What's Irv Charles? He's gone already. No one's talking about Big Irv, our special teams captain. He's still on the team. So I would be surprised if Rucker gets cut, because I feel like unless there's a free age, a UDFA tight end, he's going to be one of the three, and he's a good blocker. So
they could add someone though. Like if you're just trying to find like a pure blocking tight end, if that's what they need at the end of camp, like you could just pick someone like that. Like hopefully Rucker could do more than that, but you know what I mean? Like you could find that on the waiver wire. That's not that hard to find someone.
That's true. But also don't forget that Rucker played with Justin Fields, so they do have some type of chemistry and they're friends, and maybe that'll hold some weight. Maybe that'll unlock, because as much as I love Rodgers and wanted him back, obviously you do have to have the mental to play with Rodgers. And one thing I found crazy that Cimini said is I didn't know that Corley was actually. I remember Corley was going to live with Rodgers and all that crap. Like Rodgers was really putting his hand out. But I didn't realize that was like really all Rodgers' pick, and like that's why they chased him and coveted him so much was because of Rodgers. I thought that was my man Joey D. So that's another break off Joey D. But it's their first draft. I still can't get I like what they did, because I do like that. If you look at it. I forget who said it yesterday. I don't know if it was Dylan or it's a big blur the past couple of days since the draft, but there was so many offensive linemen taken in the first round that we got the third best tight end, and we got arguably, depending on who's board and who's looking at it, one of the top two, maybe if you want to throw Banks in there, top three offensive linemen. So, I feel like the value is there. The value is better. So.
Is it true that successful lawyers need a vacuum upgrade for their wives?
Yes, just not on Valentine's Day.
Boomtown says, how does your wife feel about your sudden career change from shoe salesman to lawyer?
Well, I just told her about my new career. I let the company know that I will be switching over to now the Jake Asman law firm, and we're going to see how this plays out. Hopefully the money's still there, because ain't no honey without the money, baby.
Tom A says, we need a video of little Joey driving the white Ford Bronco with Beast in the back of the car.
That's good. I do love little Joey. I mean, I really love little Joey. That's why I back Beast so much, because I'm an animal guy, and I know that he cares. That's what I love about Beast. I know that he cares about little Joey. So.
Is this the line that you used in the courtroom to defend Beast? If the gabagool don't make you shit, you must have quit.
That's a good one. Let me write that down for my next case. If the gabagool don't make you shit, you must have quit. I like that.
Mr. Bonesy, attorney at law. Nate says, did Mrs. Bonesy try on the Joey D for you yet, Bones?
Nate, as much as I was trying to get Miss Bonesy to like the Joe Douglas jersey, my son actually wants it. So
son wants it.
Nate was making me promise that I was gonna have Mrs. Bonesy lined up in Joey D jersey because I might get double excited in the special event we're using it. But my middle son, Sonny, is obsessed with Jets, Mets, Knicks right now. It feels good as a dad because he's so invested. Like trying to get him to go to sleep last night during the Knicks game, bro. It was rough. He was crying. He was like, I want to watch this game. And I'm like, dude, you got school in the morning. I'm not about to wait till 10:30 and then have to lay there for 20 minutes to put your ass to sleep. So, but the Knicks, man, God, bro, you talked about it earlier. That hurt so much. We needed that game so we could rest up. Detroit is fouling the shit out of us. Now we're about to go back to their boxing ring and have to waste a whole nother game trying to get a victory while we get beat up. Now we're going to be limping into the Celtics series with, our health questionable. Now Hart is hurt. We're banged up. How do you
trouble?
not?
They're in trouble, man, because they're either going to blow a 3-1 lead or they're going to get destroyed by Boston. It's kind of how I feel right now. Like it was so disappointing. They needed to close them out in 5, like the more talented team should, and then rest up and give yourself a shot against Boston. They're not 100% healthy either. Yeah, you'd be a huge underdog against them. It'd be house money. But now it's like, do I think the Knicks can win tomorrow night? Sure, of course they could. They already won 2 in Detroit. But it's like you had it. You played with your food. You didn't put them away when you should have. You had the lead at halftime. Then you come out in the third like they have in all these games, and they get dominated. And that can't happen, man.
They keep having to come back in the fourth. And even in the fourth quarter, there were so many chances for us to take a nice little bump lead.
So many makeable shots, momentum shots. And every time they got it tied or it's like, then they just go cold. And it's like, you're right there, man. Step on their throat. You're the more talented team.
I sometimes think, I know, Cat took a bad shot last night, but I feel like sometimes we got to let this Cat work and let Cat go one-on-one. He makes incredible shots. And especially when Brunson and I know Mikal came up with a couple of nice shots yesterday in the fourth, but sometimes when it's like that crunch time, it's like, yo, can't we just let Cat work? He makes incredible shots sometimes. How do you not? I would have called the timeout. I don't even give a shit. You let two and a half minutes go off the clock with Brunson and Hart sitting on the sideline. That's just unacceptable when you're trying to close out a game. Oh, I'm disgusted with it last night. It hurts, man.
It was bad. Real bad.
Well, shout out to my lawyers. This is Rexy Boy. He's been here since that infamous Patriots win last time. People say he's got to go before we get off the schneid.
No,
but this is my man. It's my
Hey,
guy.
hold on. You know what we need to do right now? Hold up Rex for a moment.
There you go.
Oh, it's little Joey.
There you go, you big funny boy.
Look at your friend, Rex.
Yeah, it's a good boy. He likes that. And Bonesy, thanks, my man. I'm gonna get you in on the raffle, baby.
Beast, I don't need no money from you, brother. Just keep loving that animal. That's all we care about, bud.
Oh, and to Leon M, I don't snack on Joey, little fella. So keep your dirty little animal rights to yourself. Thank you very
I
much.
don't read the chat when I'm talking to Jake.
Yeah,
so
I know. I just ignore that. That's just a bunch of poo poo anyway. So, oh, did you see the tacos I made?
I did, Beast. I did. You were making me hungry, baby.
Hey, let me just say, Cinco de Mayo's coming up, and you know why Cinco de Mayo's coming up? Time to get a little, Mexico, baby. You gotta get ready for that. And you know what? You're right about one thing. The Knicks better get their hell out of their ass, or else we're gonna be,
Hell yeah, bro.
we're gonna be farting. We're gonna be farting and being laughed at again in every newspaper, going,
Oh, look at this, the headline. Nick suck again. Yeah, so shut up. He's
Look at little Joey, man.
he's getting hungry. Okay. I gotta get going, Bonesy, before he starts crying. You know how kids are. When kids get hungry, kids get hungry. You know how it works.
You know how it works.
All right, Jake, we both gotta go, so I gotta go feed you know who.
Are you an actual lawyer or what, man?
Yeah, I am a lawyer.
Trouble, so you better call Bonesy. Ignore the shoes behind him. Those are law books. Those are law books.
What a show. What a show. Guy comes up to me at the Knicks game last night, by the way. What's up with this Beasley guy? So now I usually get asked about Beast. There's always a lot of Bobby Midnight. Whoever like the Asmaniac storyline is, but last night was the first time I was approached about Bobby Beasley. Unreal. Fun show. We're back today at 4 p.m. Eastern time. You guys are going to love the second show. We're bringing on a guest who's going to break down how the Jets offense is going to feature Mason Taylor and just the tight ends in general, what Tanner Engstrand's offense is going to look like. So I think it's going to be informative, and you guys are going to like it. But before we leave, I'm going to debut a new song that Daz sent us. Ladies and gentlemen, the Asmaniac debut of the hit song, Where is B-Mac?
B-Max disappeared. Where's he gone? No more calls, no Green Bay fandom. We kinda looked like we shook a plan, then got distracted by Charles Gorman's pants. Where's B-Mac? Who cares? Who knows? We searched for like 10 whole seconds, bro. He dipped, we sipped, moved on, just fine. No more shit Wi-Fi from 1999. Maybe he's naked in a dark alleyway, or selling toe picks to keep himself paid. Yeah, we said we'd form a team and track him down, but instead we just drank, cause he's a clown. Where's B-Mac? Hey, who cares? He's probably smiling in women's underwear. We miss you, B-Mac, just not enough to actually look.
You get the fuck out.